I don't know about you guys, but I am seriously regretting buying the new O3 Air unit. How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Big Ball Vlogs. If you have been around the channel for a while, thank you for sticking around and supporting. And today I am out. The weather has finally cleared up a little bit because, you know, over the last, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I've been kind of tied up with moving. Also, you know, the weather's not been so forgiving. Temperatures have been down into, like, you know, the sub-zero or below freezing, and not really the temperature that I wanted to get out and fly a drone in. But I gotta be honest with you, I didn't think I was gonna get out here and shoot a video, an FPV video. You guys haven't seen me shoot many FPV videos because I'm not an expert on FPV. I'm an FPV enthusiast, maybe a little bit more of an enthusiast. I am kind of invested in the original DJI FPV systems. I've got about a dozen or so FPV drones, all with vistas and air units in them. And like many of you, I got sucked into DJI's new O3 Air unit that was just recently released because of, I guess, the specs. And being a YouTuber and being someone who does reviews, I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to give it a try. Having so many, I would just say version 1 components, I was really skeptical about switching over to the O3 because I had seen the videos about how like my two V1 FPV controllers are not compatible with the O3 system, and, you know, getting things to work was somewhat tricky. If you didn't have the V2 goggles, or the goggles too, which I have the V2 goggles and the V1 goggles. So yeah, I was skeptical about switching over, but I thought about doing it just because I wanted to see, you know, do it for the review, right? And I wanted to do this so I can let you guys know. I know a lot of you guys have probably already seen so many videos on the O3 air unit system, and, you know, you think you may have seen it all or heard it all, but I can tell you, after kind of getting into this, I did have to do my research on how to get this bound, how to get it all hooked up, how to get it, you know, running correctly so I didn't lose it over here in the woods. And I was a little bit upset about buying this. I am actually regretting buying the O3 air unit system. And hopefully that regret will go away. Maybe if DJI does some updates and gives you a little bit more compatibility, because I am truly, I guess the number one reason I'm upset is because DJI decided to obsolete my version 1 FPV controllers. I have 2 of them. And when I deal with a company spending as much money as I have for all of the original FPV systems equipment, I don't expect them to obsolete parts of that equipment just so I have to upgrade to the latest greatest. They want you to upgrade to the goggles too. They want you to upgrade to the, well, if you don't already have one, the FPV controller too. So what they do is, yes, typical DJI style, they obsolete stuff from previous versions so that you have to go and upgrade and, you know, get the money into their pockets. But I was upset about that. But to be honest with you, yeah, I just got a lot of regrets. So I thought I would go through some of those regrets because, as I usually do in my reviews, I give you the information so you don't have to go out and spend it and waste your own money to find out that you don't like it. And there are several things that I don't like about this system. And I know a lot of guys make this seem so much better on paper because all of the specs seem to be super, you know, better. I mean, yeah, this thing shoots at resolutions that I probably would never even film in, but, you know, do you really need it? For me, personally, not. Like I said, I'm heavily invested in the version 1 setup, FPV systems, controllers, 2 sets of goggles, and for this upgrade, like I said, I regret it. So let's go through some of those regrets. So first off, I got to get into, you know, some of those specs that they give you, and I'm going to turn some of this stuff off because I know it's going to start beeping in a second. But the specs, yes. This does shoot at resolutions that are ridiculous. I think it's like 4K 100 frames per second. And through the V2 goggles, it looks absolutely amazing. I can say that coming from V1 goggles, air units, and vistas, there is a substantial difference in what you see in the goggles. Sorry, something's going by. I don't know if this noise cancellation is going to kick that out. From version 1 to 03. crazy difference in the goggles. Now, as far as the video output that you're going to get, I think one of the major specs that I thought that I would like about the O3 is the fact that it had image stabilization. And I don't know if that was, deployed the way that DJI thought it would go, So one of the things that you may have seen is that you are going to get some jitters and you're going to get some jumps if you're trying to use image stabilization with the O3, because the image stabilization sensor is mounted in the camera. With FPV drones, a bent prop, anything that may be off, you're going to get a high amount of resonance, and that's going to give you a lot of shake in your video. Even with the image stabilization, I have used a DJI Osmo Action 3, bounced that thing around, and I didn't see a single bit of image jitter. It is almost unusable with the amount of image jitter that you're going to get. And I've tried many times. I've also, because I knew how to do it, I modified one of my smoothest flying quads. I mean, this is the quad that I would fly without image stabilization and get some pretty smooth video. I modified it to soft mount it. What I did was I found some rubber grommets and I kind of drilled some holes and I soft mounted. I don't know if you can see that, but I soft mounted the camera and it really didn't work. I mean, it made it better, but it didn't work. Flying around with this, whenever I do a pitch pump or something that's going to cause maybe even a tiny bit of prop washer resonance, gives you crappy video footage. So image stabilization, not really working. Also, a lot of drone manufacturers have not made frames that have soft mounts. So you have to look around for a frame that has a soft mount. From what I'm hearing, soft mount solves the problem. I've seen a couple. I've been searching. I think the cheapest I found was an aftermarket or a clone Apex with a soft mount built into it. And that was about 45 bucks. I mean, again, now you're investing in more equipment when you upgrade to the O3 system. On top of the fact that the O3 system costs $229 per unit, as far as, the previous versions were about $150, $160 for Air Units and Vistas, you're looking at an overall more expensive cost. And again, I absorbed that cost because I thought this was going to be something that I would be interested in, but right now I'm really regretting it. Let's talk about the goggles. The goggles too work with the V2 controller. The goggles too work with the original V1 Vistas, but the V2 controller doesn't, but the V1 controller does. It's just a bunch. It's a lot to get them all up and working. There are some ways that you can kind of get it working with the firmware update with the goggles 2 and the V2 controller, but here's the kicker. I thought that I was going to be able to take my goggles, use the O3 Air unit, tag out and tag back in one of my original Vistas and fire this thing back up and switch modes. Guess what? Got to relink them. Not a big deal. Keep a pen or something in your pocket, hit the relink button, it'll link them back up, but it is a pain in the butt. So, I mean, after, playing with this for, I've been playing with it about 4 days now, trying to get the smoothest video possible, trying to get some of that jitter out of it. It's just not working for me. And I don't know, maybe it was just me. I don't think I had my goggles plugged in all the way, and I had a little bit of a power surge because they kind of pop out sometimes. If you lose video link from your goggles, you lose the quad. That split second that it locked out when I lost the goggles power, I heard this thing beep in the air that it lost signal transmission and it came tumbling out of the sky, pretty much pancaking or waffling a brand new Tattoo Funfly 1300 6S. So yeah, there's a lot, man. So I just want to let you guys know about this because I know everybody's out here talking about this system. I am not, a pro FPV pilot. I am an FPV enthusiast. I like to get out, bang between super wide gaps and do super smooth flight. I don't do bando banging, and I don't like to break up my stuff. This quad looks almost brand new, and again, I am absolutely kind of regretting buying this system for now, only because DJI may do some future firmware updates that might get rid of all these problems. I really don't know what they were thinking about putting the image stabilization sensor in the actual camera sensor instead of putting it somewhere in the actual module itself. The fact that you really can't find a frame, there's a couple of them out there. I know a lot of people say that they don't have this issue. I've tried changing out props because, if you bend a prop on a hard landing, you're going to get a little bit of vibration. I tried trading out props so you see two different color props on here. I've tried a lot, and I am not getting the type of image quality that I would expect from the O3 with image stabilization. So what did I do? I turned the image stabilization off. And I'm going to turn the image stabilization off while I use the O3. Features wise, that's another thing that kills me about DJI. They like to take stuff out that's in the previous versions of their equipment, and they did that with this, and it absolutely I don't know. I don't want to say it pisses me off, but it makes me think why DJI? So the original Air units and the original Vistas, you had the ability through the goggles or through the remote controller to control things like saturation. I love super saturated video. Not with these. Can't do it. Can't control the saturation. You were also able to adjust the color profile or maybe the brightness profile by scrolling the wheel for indoor flying, for outdoor flying, and then there was mode. It was called race mode. It was called indoor mode. It was called standard mode. So you had the ability. Now I have a siren in the background. Sorry. So you had the ability to kind of scroll through those, and you don't have that with this. You get what you get. You have the ability to adjust manually. I think you're able to adjust the ISO and the white balance, but I didn't see anything for saturation. So with the original unit, I was able to get some pretty decent video footage that I could use, drop it right into a simple image stabilization software and kind of clean it up. Whereas this one, even though it has all the bells and whistles that you think was going to make it an upgrade, can't do a lot of stuff that you can do with the original Air unit and the original Vista. Don't like it. I mean, yeah, there's some benefits. There's some pros. Onboard video recording. Unbelievably high resolution for recording in. If you can, for some reason, get this thing to work without the jitters, yeah, you can slap a GoPro. You don't have to slap a GoPro on it. I believe I just saw online, but I saw it months ago that DJI is releasing a more customer cost-friendly version of the goggles too, that don't have a touchpad and it doesn't have head tracking. $650 for a new pair of goggles. Not for me. Wasn't going to do it. But you know, maybe down the line when that comes out, they will have had some time to look at some of the kinks or quirks in this thing and work them out. Work some of the bugs out, and maybe there'll be a decent selection of frames to put this thing in. But again, at $229 per unit, it's definitely not something that I would invest in multiple of. I know that that might not be a hit for some of you guys who have, like, you know, 4 or 5 GoPro 10s at like $300 or $400 a piece. But in FPV, if you're going to crash this thing, you're going to want to be able to get it back up in the air as cheap as possible. And having, you know, $229 stuck in the top of a tree, man, it just doesn't do it for me. At that point, yeah, you stay analog and strap a GoPro on top of it. So yeah, I wanted to kind of get that out there because, like I said, I know a lot of you guys are thinking about buying this thing because it is the latest greatest, and you know, I'm a fanboy for some things too. If the latest greatest comes out, I'll come out and buy it. But for this, you might want to wait. You might want to wait. So with that said, if I haven't done so, probably post up a little bit of video showing the difference I got between image stabilization on and image stabilization off, those jitters that I saw. I appreciate everyone who has been sticking around and supporting the channel. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.